Hello, my name is Matt Brackley. I'm here to share with you a little bit about my personal leadership style. Seems like both personally and professionally a good part of my life. I have been put in leadership roles, both formally with the title and informally as just somebody who has grown into a leadership position with my peers. There's a lot out there on leadership. There's no question about that. I'm not going to try to have an exhaustive seminar on how you should lead, but more just to talk about some of the things that I've learned and what my approach is in different situations. What I'd like to cover today are the 4 leadership goals that I keep in the forefront of my mind as I go into each day. I go and I communicate with my team. These are the 4 things that I try to just keep in the front of my mind. The first is to maintain integrity. Next is to inspire people. Third is to set clear goals. And number 4 is to communicate effectively. So that's what I'm going to cover and talk to you about a little bit more. The first goal, and I think that the most important goal, is to maintain personal integrity. Integrity boils down to doing what's right regardless of the consequences. As I approach ethical dilemmas in my leadership roles, I just try to always remind myself that there is no friendship, there is no profit, there is no financial gain, and there is nothing to fear, anything worse than losing my moral compass. That needs to be at the core of my life. It needs to be who I am. I need to be able to sleep at night. The ways that I try to maintain my integrity is to always say what I mean, and also to mean what I say. If I say something, I follow through with it, even if it's unpleasant. In the long run, the trust that you will build by always doing what you say that you will, meaning what you say, and saying, clearly what you mean, will be worth it. Another thing that I try to focus on as I maintain my integrity is to admit my shortcomings, both to myself and to others. I'm not going to be perfect. I make mistakes. And the only way that I'm going to grow and that I'm going to learn and that people are going to respect me as they see me fail is to see me admit it, to see me grow through it. And finally, for me, in maintaining integrity, I look at a leader with integrity as somebody who is always working to improve. I try to develop my strengths that I see, and I try to compensate for my weaknesses. I try to work on improving every day as a leader and as a person. The next thing that I focus on when I go into a leadership situation is inspiring people. As this statement says right here, and I really like it, to be inspired is great, but to inspire is incredible. It really is a huge rush for me to be able to inspire people to do things that they didn't think that they could do, or to do it better than they think they could do it, or to do it better than they've ever done. It encourages me to inspire people to pull together. The first way that I work to inspire people is by being enthusiastic and passionate. Typically, I'm very invested in what I do. I enjoy it. I want to do my best. That kind of enthusiasm and that passion is something that can energize other people as they see your passion and your enthusiasm. So I try to not just maintain my positive attitude, not just be enthusiastic, but to communicate that enthusiasm, to show my passion for what I'm doing. Others will feed off it and be inspired themselves. The next way that I consciously try to inspire people is by cultivating a shared vision for the future. People want to know where they're going, right? They want to know what their role, what effect their role has. And if you can tell people how what they're doing is essential to the overall goals of the organization, or the department, or the profitability of the company, people like to know. People like to know that what they're doing means something, and they like to know that they're working towards something. So I try to just share that goal. As a leader, as a manager, sometimes I know the overall strategies. I know how that person fits in, but they may be very frustrated if they don't see that. Whereas if they do know, they have that ownership, and it inspires them to do the best they can. The next thing that I do is I try to reinforce optimism. I try to portray optimism. Optimism is something that grows. It is just as bad energy. People feed off from bad energy. People also feed off from good energy and a positive outlook. It's amazing what people think that can actually accomplish when they believe that they can do it. If you don't think that you're going to do something, you're not going to try as hard. If you think you're going to fail, if you don't think you're going to be successful, you're just not going to try as hard. But when people believe that they can do something, they're going to work twice as hard at it. They're going in with the battle half won. So the ways that I try to inspire optimism or to reinforce optimism is first, by being optimistic myself, and second, by encouraging others when they display optimism and a can-do attitude. Another way that I try to inspire people is by inviting their participation. Everybody has something to bring to the table, and people want to know that what they say counts, and that there is an audience for their thoughts and their thought processes, their ideas. I think that it's important to actually invite that active participation from the people who are my followers, my peers, everybody around me. People want to be involved. And finally, I try to encourage potential. The way that I encourage potential is, first of all, by always expecting the very best from myself. And then secondly, by always expecting the very best from my team. High expectations work out into good results. The next major point that I try to keep in the front of my mind as a leader and trying to be an effective leader is to set clear goals. Yeah, it can't be overstated. A lot of people, there's a lot of talk about setting clear goals. There's really great acronyms. I have one of them here, SMART objectives. There's a lot out there, but it's not always practiced. So I try to consciously keep it in the front of my mind that I need to set clear goals. I do that by providing clear objectives, laying out adequate task instructions. There's nothing more frustrating than being given something to do and only half the knowledge to accomplish it. People become very frustrated and they slow down and they become less efficient. If I can just take the time to lay out the adequate task instructions so people know what to do, they know steps 1 through 10, and they know how to do it, they're going to be much more efficient. Establish timelines. That's so important. People need to know what their priority is, and they need to know what they need to do next, and they need to know what their deadlines are. Otherwise, they may be focusing all of their energy in the wrong area, something that's not due for weeks when you have something due by the end of the day. Another way that I try to set clear goals is to follow up. There's nothing better than coming back and reinforcing a goal or an objective that you have laid out. And also following up to see if there have been questions that have arisen. You might have thought that you laid out adequate task instructions originally, but if you follow up a few hours later or a few days later, depending on who it is and what the task is, you can come back and you're able to reinforce those task instructions or reinforce the timeline. You need to follow up. And then finally, you need to manage deliverables. Deliverables need to be set according to the timeline, right? They need to be measurable, they need to be relevant, they need to be attainable, but ultimately, you need to be able to manage to those deliverables. The final way that I try to be a good leader, an effective leader, is to communicate effectively. Effective communication It's almost become a cliche. We talk about it so much. But there's a lot of ineffective communication that goes on in businesses and organizations all over the world. And it's very frustrating for people. Ways that I try to be an effective communicator are, number one, to be honest. It goes back to the whole integrity, the whole point of integrity. You can be the best orator in the world. You can have great command presence. You can communicate clearly as far as you can enunciate well. You can have great facial expression. But if you don't have the trust of your audience, you've lost them. You'll never be an effective communicator. So I just try to be honest once again. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I try to be personal. A lot of times that's lost. It's hard to be in a supervisory role, in a leadership role, and still maintain a level of personal contact, of personability. It's one thing, though, for me to say, safety is our number one goal as a team. We need to make sure that we're safe. It's another thing for me to say, to relate a story, to tell about how when I was young, my dad fell off the roof. I hurt his heel really bad. He broke his foot in 100 pieces. And it meant, it was devastating for my family. It was devastating for me to see my dad go through that pain. I don't want that. I don't want to see that again. There's a completely different way of doing that, and you're able to connect with people and to be relatable. Another way that I communicate effectively is I try to be generous. Not just generous with my words, but generous with my time, generous with my listening, and generous with my feedback if I have relevant feedback. Another way is to be open-minded. I always need to remember, and I always try to remember, that everybody has something to bring to the table, as I said before. People have relevant points of view. People have different points of view. That is the beauty of a team. That is the beauty of having different people. And so I always try to remain open-minded. That's the way that you're going to learn and grow yourself. That's what you're going to receive from a conversation is by being open-minded. Also be empathetic. People are going to communicate so much better with you, and you're going to develop so much better working relationships and personal relationships if you can relate to other people, if you can put yourself in their shoes, see where they're coming from, not just hear them, but try to actually experience where they're coming from and where they've been. Also, it's important as a leader and as a manager to be knowledgeable. It's not all about knowledge, but you need to show that you are willing to stay abreast of the current processes, the current work practices, current procedures. You need to know the company. You need to know what you are responsible for managing, you need to know the group that you're responsible for leading. You need to know what their challenges are, what the goals are. You need to stay knowledgeable. You need to show that you care enough to stay knowledgeable. And that is something that I try to do. I try to stay abreast and to be knowledgeable so that I have something to contribute as a communicator. And last but certainly not least is just be present. It can seem so obvious, but as I have advanced in leadership roles, I have so much more I have so much more responsibility. I have so many more people who need to have some of my time. And it's important to be present. It's important. You're not going to be able to communicate if you're not. And I want to differentiate between just being physically present, which is very important, but also being mentally present. Right? We have so much technology. You can't be present and be looking at your smartphone, checking your email, or watching the clock. You need to maintain eye contact. You need to let people know that you are there for them. So these are some of the things that I've learned as a leader. These are some of the areas that I'm working on as a leader, some of the things I'm trying to keep in the front of my mind. Feel free to contact me on my website at www.sites.google.com/slight/Matt Brackley Portfolio, or use my contact information there to get in touch with me if you want to learn more about my leadership style, or talk about anything else. Thank you.